New Mexico Real Estate Basics, page 52. There are 4 levels of licensed appraisers in New Mexico. 1. Registration as a state apprentice real estate appraiser is the initial level for most appraisers when they have completed pre-licensing education requirements. Once registered, candidates gain the appraisal experience that allows them to license at a higher level. 2. To obtain the state's certified general real estate appraiser classification, the appraiser must present evidence of a minimum of 3,000 hours of appraisal experience over a period of not less than 30 months. At least 50% of the work must be non-residential. 3. To achieve state certified residential real estate appraiser classification, the appraiser must present evidence of a minimum of 2,500 hours of appraisal experience over at least 24 months. 4. The state licensed real estate appraiser category requires 2,000 hours of appraisal experience. The Appraisal Foundation adopts changes in the real property appraiser qualification criteria from time to time. To obtain a copy of the current Federal Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, go to www.appraisalfoundation.org. Do home inspectors have to be licensed? At the present time, there is no requirement for licensing home inspectors. Forms of ownership. What forms of ownership are recognized in New Mexico? New Mexico recognizes tenancy in common, joint tenancy, and community property. It does not recognize tenancy by the entireties. Are dower and courtesy recognized in New Mexico? No. Dower and courtesy are not recognized in New Mexico. What are separate and community property? New Mexico is a community property state. This is important to married people. Separate property is property owned prior to marriage and includes property received during the marriage by gift or inheritance. Community property is property acquired by a husband or wife during marriage from the earnings of either spouse. Community property is owned in equal undivided interests, no matter how much each spouse contributed. Other forms of property ownership. What about partnerships, corporations, and so forth? The New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, NMPRC, regulates all artificial entities in New Mexico. Real estate brokerages in New Mexico may include sole proprietorships, partnerships, limited liability company, LLC, operations. Page 53. Corporations and subchapter S corporations. New Mexico law allows for the formation of single-person LLCs. What are timeshares? Do they have to be registered? Timeshares are a form of ownership interest that includes the use of a property for a fixed or variable period of time. NMREC has jurisdiction over timeshare registration. Developers must register the project and pay $20 per unit, up to a maximum of $1,500. What law covers timeshares? The New Mexico Timeshare Act is 47-11-1 ET period SEQ period NMSE SA 1978. Does a timeshare salesperson require a real estate license? Any person engaged in the business or occupation of selling timeshare estates for a fee or commission is required to obtain a real estate license. Substantial owners, defined as holding at least a 15% interest, are exempt from licensing requirements. If a broker is involved in selling timeshares that are deemed to be investment contracts, the broker must follow securities laws. Under what circumstances may a timeshare purchaser rescind a contract? There is a cooling off period. A purchaser may at any time within 7 business days following the receipt of all required information rescind in writing the contract of sale without stating any reason and without liability on the purchaser's part. All payments made before the decision to rescind must be refunded. What is the difference between a condo and a co-op? Cooperatives and condominiums are examples of multiple owners of the same property. Articles of incorporation, bylaws, definitions, and restrictive covenants are all different, and therefore due diligence is required before making a decision to purchase. The broker who assists buyers in buying either type of property should always insist that the buyer read all relevant documents before entering into a purchase agreement. Condo buyers receive a deed to real property. Co-op buyers receive personal property in the form of shares of stock inseparable from the proprietary leases. What New Mexico laws govern cooperative and condominium ownership? In a cooperative, the association or corporation owns the property. The Building Unit Ownership Act governs cooperative housing. By purchasing shares in the cooperative, the purchaser becomes an owner-tenant. The real estate is taxed in the name of the cooperative, but the individual owner-tenants are allowed to take tax deductions from the individual amounts paid, as well as the same homestead tax credit and exemption as afforded individual property owners.